And welcome everyone to this afternoon's session on communication in Canvas. There's an old saying about online education. I think we got it from a real estate agent, not the one in the Oval Office, that the three most important things about an online course, or the three most important things in an online course, are communication, communication, and communication. Students crave communication in an online course because they don't get that face-to-face interaction with you multiple times a week. Not that you can't add face-to-face interaction through Zoom, but some students will take advantage of that and some will not. So communication of other sorts is really critical in an online course. Students in an online course tend to suffer at some degree at least, of psychological isolation. They feel like they're out there by themselves working through this, this mountain of tasks, and without communication from their instructor and regular and effective communication, their chances of successful completion go way down. It is a really critical factor in any online course. And toward that end, Canvas provides you with a number of asynchronous tools that you can use to carry on a very active communication with your students. And even in a situation where you and your students are not necessarily ever online at the same time and in the course. So we're going to take a look first at those asynchronous tools, asynchronous communication tools in Canvas, and then we'll talk about some other alternatives as well. And this is fairly simple and quick, so we will have lots of time for questions today. The first communication tool that you come to in the course menu in Canvas, and probably the one that you may use quite often, is the announcements tool. This is the virtual equivalent of writing something up on the board before the students get there so that they can read it when they come in the door, or pasting a note on the classroom door. An announcement is sort of like an email, but it's not sent through email. It just, it is sent through the announcements tool. It becomes a part of the announcements tool. And you see that here. When I click on the announcements link in the course menu, you see previous announcements in this course. The most recent at the top. Indeed, by default, in the way we have our Canvas shell set up, when students enter a Canvas course, if you have created an opening page in your course, they see the last three announcements at the top of that page automatically. So, though they can always go to the announcements link and see all of the announcements that you have posted and not deleted in your course. And announcements are usually fairly, yes. Mm-hmm.
In the announcements, I teach film, and so I always have an image, like a still from the movie I'm going to show. Mm-hmm. Will I be able to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You could, in fact, if part of the movie were on YouTube, you could embed the video in it. Yeah, the announcements are quite feature rich because, and let's look at how we create them. You see, they can be usually, you certainly want the announcement to be as short as possible, consistent with accomplishing its goal, because there's a limit how much students will read, unfortunately. But and you want it to be as attractive as possible. So putting those images and some embedded video and things like that in there is a great idea. To make an announcement, obviously, you as the instructor have this capability. The students do not. You can just click this Add Announcement button in the upper right, and that gives you access to the rich content editor in Canvas, which is your standard content editor. It's used for everything from creating announcements to creating Canvas pages to creating discussion posts, answering essay questions or text entry questions in a homework assignment or a test. It's everywhere in Canvas. And this is one of the places you can make really good use of it. The process of creating an announcement is very much like creating an email. You give it except that an announcement has a title where an email wouldn't. The announcement title is the rough equivalent of the subject line in an email. So I'm just going to call this sample announcement. But you can call it anything you like. And here you have all these tools. You have text editing tools, so you can type. Most of an announcement is probably going to be text. And you've got all the usual text entry tools, or text editing tools. You can bold it, you can italicize it, you can make it bigger, and so on.
YouTube there. Huh.
Yes. On the second line of the rich content editor, you have all sorts of media tools that you can use. You can embed video. You can put a hyperlink in to any resource out on the web. So you could send them to a website or send them to a video out on the web. You can embed images. You want to put a picture of yourself in there. You can go, if you have that either on Canvas or on your local computer, you can select Canvas, you can put this image in course files, and you can upload well, I already have an image of myself in this course, so I can just select that and click upload file. Oh, I didn't need to do that. I meant update, excuse me. And then you can center that or whatever. You can do all the usual stuff you can do in a text editor. You can also search. Yes, go ahead.
Update or upload? What did you click?
Uploads or update. Excuse me. Update.
Okay.
It's at the bottom. At the bottom. Let me show you that again. Image. This button right here. Updates.
Okay.
Good question. Okay.
You
can even search. Please.
I kind of like the metaphor you said about the announcement being something like when you post something on the whiteboard in the classroom or on a door before students come in. And,
right.
But the problem, and maybe I haven't figured it out, is that it leaves the last three, but there are some messages that I want every single time. And it seems like I have to redo the whole thing and do it again. It doesn't let me
right. There's no way to pin one to the top that I know.
Yes, that's where I'm looking for. Pin it, right. Or move it around.
No, I don't think so. But you can easily duplicate them as well by just copy and pasting from one announcement to the next. Okay. But yeah, you would have to do that if you want it refreshed and back at the top. And that's a really good idea because sometimes students will not see it the first time. And they won't always check the announcements when they come in. More about that in a second, though. You can search YouTube for videos on a particular subject right from within the content editor by just typing in a search word or phrase here.
Awesome. And
you can embed those right into the announcement. If you, I don't have access to it here, but if you have if you have a shell, course shell for Mesa, Miramar, or City College, you can also access films on demand from here, from your library. maybe the one I like the best, and this is the ideal place for it, is in an announcement, is this little tool, which if I select the right webcam here, there we go. It can hear me. You have to make sure Canvas can hear you. If you don't see this bouncing blue bar, click on mic for microphone and look and see. You may have the something other than your microphone selected as an input device. But this seems to be working fine. And I can just start recording. I get counted down. Hi, everyone. Don't forget to test this week. Remember, it's on Chapter 4, and it's going to be hard. Then I just save that. Oops, I wasn't real careful about where I put that. Sorry about that. If I save the announcement, which posts it, then this is here, and the student clicks on that. Hi, everyone. Back. Don't forget to test this week. Remember, it's on Chapter 4. So that's really handy in an announcement. That's something you have to be a little careful about. I wouldn't use that tool if I knew I had a hearing impaired student in my class, because there's no good way to caption this.
Okay.
But on the other hand, it's not really an instructional element. As long as the text of the announcement provides the information necessary, I wouldn't worry about, worrying about the video. That's just an extra nice little bit of engagement for your students. Yes.
In the rich content area, could you go back and show us the little icon where you
It is that one right there.
Okay.
It looks like a little computer screen with a play button in it, and it's labeled. The tooltip is labeled record/upload media.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. So you've got all those rich content editor tools available to you in your announcement, and when you save it, it is posted. You do have some options. You can delay posting until a certain date and time so that it comes out at the appropriate time without you having to create it right then. Like if you want it to show up at 6 a.m., you don't have to be up at 6 a.m. for that to happen. You can allow users to comment. I don't know why you do that with an announcement, but you have that option. You can sort of turn this almost into a discussion forum. And if you want a discussion forum, why not make one? But hey, and liking and so on. It's not Facebook either. So I don't know that these are especially useful. You can, though, attach a file to an announcement. So if there's some information that's in a Word document or a PDF or something like that that you want to provide to your students, or if you want to provide them, say, a template to work on something, like an Excel spreadsheet or something like that, you could attach that to this announcement, and then they can download it when they read the announcement. So it's a very powerful communication tool.
Yeah.
And if the students leave their notification settings at default values, they'll also get, when you post an announcement, they will get an email in their personal email and in their Canvas inbox, but in their personal email as well, that alerts them to the point that you just posted this announcement. So it does reach students, even if they're not logged into Canvas, assuming they have left their notification settings for Canvas at the default value. But they control their notification settings, and you can't override them. So you can't be certain that a student will get an alert email when you post an announcement, but the odds are pretty high that they will. So that's helpful.
And a student might turn it off because I would send announcements at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, and a couple of students complained and they had to turn them off. So
right, it's quite possible that they may have. You can just, at least in this case, though, your inertia is working for you. If they're lazy about it, they'll get the email, which is usually a good bet. So, like I say, the odds are with you at least. Okay, so that's a very useful communication tool, and one that I hope you would use frequently. A much more robust, powerful, and important tool, I'll say, communication tool in Canvas is the discussion board, accessed by you, if you wish, through the discussions link in the course menu. You can also embed these or link these into your modules so that students don't have to access them through the discussions tool. But if you're going to create a discussion, you have to go to the tool here in the course menu. Actually, that's not strictly true either. You can also create them under your modules. If you want to add a discussion forum to your module, you can just click the Add Item button in the module at the top of the module and select Discussion from the Add Whatever to Getting Started, or Add Whatever to Module menu here, and then just select a new topic and give it a name and add it to the module. That's the equivalent of creating a discussion through here, except that it also creates a link to the discussion in the module at the same time. If you create your discussion here, you'll have to go, and you want to link it into a module, which you almost certainly will, you'll have to go back later and link it into the module in a separate operation. But those are the two ways you can create discussion topics.
Excuse me, Dave, but when I did that in one of my units, it also put it up at the top of my module itself. So I have it at both places.
Yeah, it will appear in the discussion even if you create it in the module, it will appear here in the discussion list, in the discussion board as it's called. All discussions show up here automatically, no matter how they're created. In the module, if you put a discussion forum into the module, it will normally appear at the bottom of the module initially, but you can always move these items within the module up and down by clicking and dragging on this movement tool here. The two sets of 4 vertical dots there allow you to move items up and down in a module, or even move them between modules if that's appropriate.
Well, so I have that showing on I have 3 dots on the right where I have publish, and then 3 dots. That's where I have move to move it up and down.
Well, you do have a movement tool there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is especially useful when you're moving things long distances. Like you can move a module. Let's go back to that. You can move something between modules this way.
Yeah.
And you can place it at the top or before another item or after another item. But usually, unless you're moving something long distances, it's usually easier just to click and drag it. And even if you're moving it long distances, you can do that. You can go.
So I have to click and drag. Oh, that's
click
neat.
and drag right on that little movement tool. You see, I can go all the way up and down this way. It's a little. And it's this is the movement tool right here. You know you've hit it when your mouse cursor turns into a 4-headed arrow, up, down, left, right.
Yeah.
And now you can just drag that around.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's that makes life a lot easier, and that works really well in Canvas. That tool used to be very cranky in Blackboard. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it didn't. Here, I've never seen it fail. So,
Hey, Dave, I have a question. This is Marlene.
yes, Marlene.
On the is it better to go to the discussion right there in the navigation tool and create it there so you don't have to go back?
Well, no, actually, you have less work if you create it in the module.
All right.
Because if you create it in the module, the link and the discussion topic are created at the same time.
Okay.
If I create it here, then I have to go back and link it manually into the module, which is not a big deal. I mean, it works fine either way.
Oh, I see.
But it's a tiny bit less work the other way. And if you've got a whole bunch of discussions or a whole bunch of courses, every little bit of effort you save is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
But however you start the process of creating a discussion, when you go to create one, this is the screen that you get. And you just have to give it a name. I'll call it sample discussion. But you would give it some name that meant something to your students. And then you have these discussion topics in Canvas are kind of a prompt response sort of situation. You provide the students some information about what you expect them to discuss in the discussion topic.
Hey Dave, could I give an example?
Please.
Yes,
I'd love one.
Yeah, okay, good. Thanks. So far I've only been able to use email, and I found this great topic on the hidden brain. So it was so good on choices, and I'm trying to get them to see that the choices they make might help them get to their goal or take them away. So I assign them to listen. So would it be appropriate to put a link in there?
Absolutely.
Okay, and then I had my own series of questions that it was like 10 questions that they were supposed to. So could you maybe show us how you put a link in there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, cool, thanks.
But visit the following site and answer the following questions. This is a little bit like doing it this way, doing this sort of discussion topic is a little bit like a homework assignment as well, except that everybody gets to see everybody else's answers and they can learn from it. So it's, but it's certainly a very legitimate use of the discussion tool.
Okay.
So, and answer the following questions.
Yeah, thank you.
And we'll go to just making this up as I go along, unless you have an idea. Now, in order to make a hyperlink, and notice you do have the full rich content editor here. So in these instructions, you can include links, videos, embedded video, images, YouTube videos. Okay. You can make a little movie of yourself, though be careful with that. If you have a hearing impaired student, this is required instructional material. If you have a hearing impaired student, you really probably don't want to use this little record tool because it's difficult to get those videos captioned. It's not impossible, but you don't want to go there. So better to create the video another way if you want to put a video in here. Okay. YouTube videos are automatically captioned, so that you should be good with those. Anyway, but you can put any of this stuff into your instructions for the discussion topic. Okay. And what's cool is that your students, when they reply to your prompt, they get the rich content editor too. So you could have students post anything from images that they created, photographs they'd taken, to videos they created or videos they find or whatever. The discussions here can be incredibly rich, way beyond what you could practically do face-to-face in a classroom, particularly given the limitations of having to get your lecture done as well. So the discussion topics in a learning management system like Canvas are an incredibly rich communication tool, something that would be handy even if you were meeting face-to-face with your students. And indeed, these discussions are generally thought to be what distinguish an online correspondence course from a true online course. And of course, you're probably aware that we're not allowed to offer correspondence courses by state and federal statute. If we want to keep our financial aid status in good shape, we can't offer correspondence courses. And a good set of discussion topics is usually the primary distinguishing characteristic between an online course and a correspondence course. The online course has the discussions and the correspondence course doesn't. So if you don't have discussion forums in your course, in your online course, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have lots of other robust communications opportunities for students. And even then, it would be a hard sell.
So
if the accreditors come by and decide to pull your online course to take a look at, if there aren't discussion forums in there, there could be some splaining to do. Yes.
So could you just show
Please.
Pretend you're just going to make that a live link and just demonstrate, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can make this a live link by highlighting the text. I can also do this with pictures. I can make pictures live links as well. But text and the link to URL tool, this is a universal hyperlink icon here, the little chain link. If you click that, you're asked to provide the actual URL, the actual web address for whatever you're trying to link to. And that would be the same in this case. Of course, it helps if you spell it right. This is one case where there is no there's no almost. It's got to be perfect. I think I got that right. Insert the link. Now that becomes a hyperlink. The light blue color is an indication of that, but if I temporarily save this and take a look at the actual, what it will look like, links will also be underlined. So that's a hyperlink. If I click on that, I go out to the TechSmith website. All right, let's go back and edit some more. I can do this in multiple sessions if I like. And then I can just answer a couple of questions like what?
And Dave, if you put a due date, it comes up in the student's calendar?
Yes, indeed, it does.
Yeah, because I wasn't aware that some of them are looking at only their calendar for due dates and not realizing that, so.
Fortunately, with Canvas, anytime you set a due date on an assessment, it appears automatically in the student's calendar. It, of course, appears on the due date, so it's like next month, and they don't look ahead. They could be screwed, but it is, yes, it does that automatically, no matter what. That's true for homework assignments, for quizzes, and for gradable discussions, if you decide to make your discussion topics gradable or have a grade.
But it looked like it also, if you put down last day available, because I thought I was being generous by saying it's due this day, but you have like these 3 extra days to do it, and it looked like the last day it was due or available is what showed up in the calendar. So is there a way to override that, or?
I thought it was the due date. I thought it was supposed to be to the due date. I'm not, that's what the documentation says. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It sounds like you may have seen something different.
Yeah, a student showed me something on it. It's like, that's the last day it's available. That's not the due date. So.
Yeah, normally you would make the display until date and the due date the same, but you're not supposed to have to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll look into that. That's a good question. Okay, I'm just going to keep this fairly simple. Okay, so that's a basic prompt that the students can access. But I could put videos, images, anything else I wanted in there. Then we have some, and I can also attach files to my prompt. So if the student needs to download something to work on in order to respond to this discussion prompt, I can provide that to them here. That's relatively less common, but you do have that capability. And here, remember what we're doing here is creating the instructions, the prompt for the discussion forum. Now, here are some options that you have with the discussion forum. Allow threaded replies. I don't know why you'd not ever check that. That groups related responses together so that someone can follow a discussion easily, even if they weren't there when it started. Even if they didn't check in when it was actively taking place. So you generally want to allow threaded replies. You may want to require students to make their first post to the discussion forum before they see anybody else's, so that people don't just try to riff off each other's posts, change a couple of words and throw it in there. That's a common option to take. It won't always be appropriate. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the discussion forum. But that one's not unusual. I wouldn't worry about podcast feeds. I don't worry about it. You have that option. The next major decision is, do you want to award a grade for participation here? Or is this something the students just do for their own benefit? Obviously, graded discussions tend to get better compliance. And I'm not even going to address liking. If you select grading, if you want this to be an assessment as well as a communication tool, you have a number of other options. You can set it as a group discussion if you're assigning this to a subgroup of students among your class. You could give each of those groups a group discussion board that only the people in that group can participate in. If you're grading it, obviously you have to give it a number of points to specify its weight, if nothing else, in your grade calculation. And you can display the grade in all the usual ways, as a percentage, as just yes, no, complete, incomplete, as points, which is the default. If you have a letter grade scheme set up in your course, you can have it display as a letter grade or a 4-point GPA scale. Normally it's displayed as points. And you can determine which assignment group it goes into. If you have created assignment groups in your course, you may not have needed to, but if you did, I do have assignment groups in this course, so I would make this part of the discussion assignment group. You can you can set up peer review so that students contribute to your grading process. Well, not necessarily a grading process, but provide feedback to their peers. That's kind of the whole point of a discussion forum, though, so that's not usually something that's used here, but it can be. Finally, we get to the assignment block here, which is similar to what you see with homework assignments and with quizzes. You can assign it to everyone, or you can assign it to some to just some group of students, a student or a small group of students. But usually you're going to assign it to everyone. That's the default. You can set due dates for when the students have to finish this in order to receive a grade. And quite separate from that, the due date simply informs the student of when you expect it to be done, but it doesn't prevent them from posting after that date. They can still post. You can control availability with the second group of dates here. You can have a discussion become available at a certain time if you don't want them to have access to it immediately. And you can set a display until date and time after which the student won't be able to participate in the discussion. And that is done, usually that's the same as the due date, but sometimes there are reasons for that not being the case. Okay, so the process then of creating a discussion is pretty simple. If I just save that, then that puts it into the discussion tool. I see immediately I see the prompt here. And I'm automatically subscribed to it. You may or may not want to leave that way. If you are subscribed, you'll get an email every time somebody posts from Canvas. You may or may not want that. If it's a very active discussion forum, you could get a lot of email. If it's a discussion forum, maybe like a question and answer forum is a common type of discussion forum where you give the students a place where they can ask questions of you and of their peers, maybe at the top of a course somewhere. And you say, you know, if you have a question, put it here. And that way I'll know that I'll know that you have a question. B, your peers will know that you have a question, and about half the time, one of your peers will answer the question before I get to it. And maybe another half the time I'll actually get it right, the answer right, but you'll be able to see all that going on. So question and answer discussions are a very popular type of discussion topic. And that may only happen episodically. You know, people may only post to that every now and then. And to avoid having to go in and check it every day, you could just subscribe to it and have Canvas notify you when somebody does post to it. So it can be useful. But you can always unsubscribe by just clicking that button. Yes?
Marlene here. I have low-level ESL students. So if I have a discussion like this, is there any like video that on how to reply? Because they're not going to know what to do. They're going to look at it. And
Yes. If they go to the help button,
okay,
and go to the Canvas guides,
okay,
there are student guides.
okay,
and these are arranged alphabetically by topic, and there's the set of guides on discussions. So if they click that link, there's a whole slew of information for students on discussions. And how do I view discussions? How do I reply to a discussion as a student? How do I attach a file? Subscribe?
Are these videos or just text?
They're text and graphics generally.
Okay.
And how do I link a YouTube video as a student? All of that is right here. And these are very good.
Okay.
So how do I reply to a discussion as a student is probably the most critical when they go to discussions, course questions. They find the board they want and so on. So it's quite detailed, complete with screenshots and very visual. So yes, there is always help for just about any aspect of Canvas that students might need. There may also be a video. Let me go back and check. Canvas has a few videos online.
Where are you now?
I am in the, let me show you how I got there. I came from the help button to search the Canvas guides.
Oh, okay.
And they can just type something in and search, but mostly they're going to get the text guides this way. But there are guides over here on the right. Is a link to the video guides that Instructure has posted. And that's not as prominently featured as it used to be, and I'm not quite sure why. But if they look for it, they can find it. And now we can look for videos specifically intended for students. And there's an assignments overview. There's an overview on communication, which would be helpful, which is what we're doing right now. Discussions overview. So there is a video published by Instructure that the students can watch. And it's only about 4 or 5 minutes long. So it's pretty quick to look at. And
So
it's 3.5 minutes.
Could I capture this and put a link in my
you sure could. The URL for it is up here in the location line on your web browser when you get to it. So you can just take that, highlight it, and copy it to your clipboard. And then you could go back into Canvas and you could put that just about anywhere. You could put it in a module as an external URL. And just paste that address in here, give it a name. Hard to spelling it right. I always like to load these things in a new tab, but that's a personal preference. And add the item. So now a student could come in and click on that and then open a new window and they go right to that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Does that answer your question or answer your need, I should say?
Yes.
All right, great. That's why the questions are the best part of these sessions.
Very quickly, you had
absolutely.
The help you went to, I forget where you even got the help thing, but and it said help
in the help button. Help button right
and,
here.
And is it that wonderful for teachers too? I mean, because I get on here and I'm lost. I have no idea what to do. So
absolutely, there are a complete set of instructor guides as well. There are even more for instructors than there are for students.
Oh boy.
Because your interaction with Canvas is generally more complex, and you have those are just the groups of them. There are hundreds of these things.
Do we need to know these for our tests? I mean, we have to take tests on this, so we should know all of this. Is this where we can study?
Well, the quizzes in the certification course, if that's what you're talking about, are generally very simple and they're related to what's just been presented. So, and you get to take all of them twice if you need to. So,
okay.
And you get feedback in between. You know which questions you missed. So,
okay.
The tests, quote unquote, in the certification course are not what you'd call high stakes exams. they're just there to help you internalize what you've just read and so on. They're more a learning tool than they are an assessment. They're there as much as anything else to demonstrate the use of quizzes in that way, not so much to test you. The average grade on quizzes in the certification course is like 98% or something like that. Okie dokie, great questions. Oops, that's the wrong one. I went one too far there. Okay, so here's that sample discussion I just created. In order for the students to use it, it has to be, or to participate in it, it has to be published, which you can do here. You have those tools, the students don't. They can't publish or unpublish a discussion. And you see if there is an availability end date, that is mentioned so that the students know if they go in this way, they can get to it. So if you give students access to the discussion link in the course menu, they can access the discussions this way as well. But we recommend that you give students access to the discussions through your modules, which I didn't do here. I haven't linked that. I created that one in the discussion link. So if I want that into if I want to link that into one of my modules, I have to do that now as a separate step by clicking the Add Item button for the module and selecting Discussion. And here's that one I just created. So I can select that and I can click Add Item, and now a link to that appears in my first module as well. And I can put it wherever I like in the module. So there's a big debate about, well, should I leave the discussion link available to students so that they can just jump over here and find the discussions at any time? It's maybe a little quicker for them to get to a discussion that way than through the module by having to go up and down and look at all the modules. But generally, we recommend that students access their course tools and content through the modules.
Well, that's what that was my question, because I mean, that's like you put it here and you put it there. Can we just put everything in the module? I mean,
yes, and that is the recommended.
I want to learn. Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, I love all this other stuff and all, but
well, and this is useful for you, even if you don't give it to the students.
Okay. All right.
But as you can see in this course, I've hidden that from the students.
Okay. All right.
And that's that's recommended.
And you can still do all that cool stuff in the modules, like you were talking about, putting in pictures and videos.
Oh yeah. That has nothing to do with how the students access it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
more worried about me than them. They're smarter than I am with all this stuff. You should see me in my first Zoom meeting. I was like, oh, Ms. McCord, turn on your sound. Oh, okay. We can't see you. Click your video. Oh, okay. It was like, oh my God, it was like a Saturday Night Live,
Yes, but every time you do it, you get better.
Well, thank God for my students, because they knew how to do it. And I was like,
Right. And yes, it sure helps when your attendees have done it before as well.
And so I'm figuring
just remember the answer. Just remember the answer to the old question: How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice. Okay.
That's it. Very good. All right.
Thank you.
So, we sometimes get some questions about this display. If you choose to allow your students to see this, or if you just use it yourself, you'll notice that there are discussions and pinned discussions. The only difference between them is that pinned discussions appear at the top of the screen. So if there's a discussion that you always want at the top of the screen, you just pin it. And you can pin it using the context menu here for the discussion, or the menu tool out here at the right. And there's an option to pin that discussion So now it becomes part of this elite group at the top. The discussions below that are still just as functional, but the ordering here is automatic in this lower group. The discussions are ordered in terms of which one is the busiest, which one's been posted to most frequently lately. And you can't change the order of these down here that are not pinned. But if you pin your discussions, you can set the order that they appear in this tool.
Dave,
We get that question a lot.
what's the purpose of pinning discussions?
To highlight them generally, so that they're at the top. They're the first thing people see. So if there's one discussion that's more important than the others, like maybe a Q&A might be something you want the students to always see, and maybe these others not so much. And you can unpin them if you change your mind. So you might put only the Q&A form at the top. It's a personal thing.
I have
One
another,
thing, yes.
I'm sorry. I have another question. It kind of relates to this, which is our prerequisite and requirement buttons for, so that would affect kind of like, you know, the certification course, we can't go to
Right.
1.4 unless we've finished 1.3. Is that typically how your classes or people's classes are?
Yes, those prerequisites allow you to control that sort of thing. Yes. But notice we don't have the option to set prerequisites on discussion forums. They're either, oops. Sorry about that.
But if I have not published, say I have not published module 2, and there's a discussion in module 2, they can't get to it. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Well, as long as you haven't given them access to the discussions tool.
Oh, okay.
If the discussion topic is published itself, but the module that it's in is not published, I keep doing that, sorry. I'm leaving this area of my screen free because it can, in the recording, there's a video bar here and people won't be able to see what I'm talking about if I get over to the right side here. But, and I kept hitting outside this thing. If the discussion is published, and the module in which it's contained is not published, the students won't be able to access it from the module. But if you give them access to the discussion tool, if the discussion itself is published, they will be able to get into it, even if the module is not published. So that's one of those little workaround scenarios you have to be aware of.
How do you block students from getting into the discussion?
You can unpublish it. Well, before they start publishing, you can unpublish it, and they won't be able to get into it. But once
you said that
once they're posts, you can't unpublish it. You can set the display until date to now and prevent them from getting in henceforth.
But you said there's a question of whether to or not to even show that
discussion tool.
Yeah,
yes.
How could you not show it, I guess is my question.
Well, if you don't show it, then the students are restricted to accessing the discussion through the modules.
Okay.
And then you have better control over when they can see that and so on.
But how do I not show the students that icon? The discussion.
The things in the course menu.
see that. I don't want them to have
Right.
it.
You go to the settings link in your course menu,
Oh, okay.
and you select navigation, the navigation tab.
Okay.
And if I don't want the students, say, to see conferences here, I
Mhm.
just click and drag that down below this line
Okay.
and then save the change. You do have to save that change. I always forget
Okay.
and end up having to do it twice. But now the students will not be able to see that conferences tool. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even, yeah, there it is. And that's what this little slashed I tells you, that those are not available to students.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so that's how you control that.
Mhm. Thank you.
I had already hidden the discussions tool because that's my general practice. And that's the recommended practice, in fact, but that's up to you. I mean, best practices are one thing, and we do try to present those in the training course. But remember, this is your course. You do what works for you, and don't worry about anybody else's best. If your needs diverge from what is termed best practice, tough, do it your way because you have a good reason for doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Okay, so yes.
But if you go back to that screen, please. I see where it said my Zoom room. I always have, I have 7 classes, and so I decide class have its own meeting number. I don't. So does that affect how I set up my Zoom meetings? Should I not be doing that anymore?
Well, that's something that I added to this menu, which is a little bit outside the scope of the communication right now, but I will be happy to answer that question in a minute and talk through some of the implications, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, so discussions are very easy to set up. What do they look like? Well, they are like bulletin boards. If you set up a physical bulletin board in the hallway, a student, you could put a note at the top that was equivalent to your prompt here, piece of paper up at the top. And you could have a bunch of sticky notes hanging there, blank ones. A student could come by and tear one of those off and write something on it and post it on the board. Mm-hmm. Everybody would see it. That's what a discussion board is intended for. If anybody posts in a discussion forum, everybody sees it. The students would post, in this case, by clicking the reply button that is right below your prompt. And that is a little, conceptually a little vague. I would be happier if that said post. But that's what it does. If the student wants to reply to this prompt, they would click reply. And let me do that as a student. I think I've made this. Yeah, I published it. You can always check how it works with a student by going to your student view. Go to your home button and select student view from the menu on the right. You're now logged in as a test student. And whatever you do will become a part of the course. And here's that sample discussion. I made that available to students. So I can, as this test student, I can click into that. And I see the prompt, and I have the option to reply. So the first thing I would do, hopefully, as this test student, is click on the TechSmith link and go here and read through some stuff. And maybe go to support, go to tutorials, help center, tutorials probably. Whatever I chose to tell them to do. Anyway, there's a wealth of information here. Then I can go back to Canvas. And what is screencasting? Well, I click reply. And I notice I get the rich content editor. So I can put videos in here. I can put anything I want, just about. So you can really there are a lot of so-called off-label uses of discussions. You can have students submit their work for comment by the entire class by having them submit it through the rich content editor here. They can attach files, they can embed video, they can embed images, they can pull up YouTube videos, everything. They can record their own responses. This can be a video chat, asynchronous video chat. So, assuming they have a device that will allow them to do that, and their smartphones will allow them to do that. They can access this through their smartphones. So, I might say, recording your computer screen voice over is a quick definition. Maybe I'll number that. Camtasia, Maggot. What else would be mentioned on that website? Probably those two. And then when I'm done, I just hit post reply down here in the lower right. And this becomes a part of this discussion. That's the first item in the discussion. Notice it's indented underneath the prompt, indicating that this is a reply to this prompt. But there's also a reply button underneath here. If another student comes along, they can reply to my post. And I can come back and I can reply to their reply. And let's see what that looks like. I'm going to leave student view for the moment. Or actually, I'm going to go into another discussion by going back to the modules. And let's see, which one do I have? This one I have some other posts in. This is another discussion. Okay, so here's the prompt. Prompt: 3 ideas for instructional applications of Camtasia in your field. Replies and comments are appreciated. Or you can say replies and comments are required. You have to reply to 2 of your peers in order to get the grade. Okay, so the student test 2 student has replied to my prompt with 3 instructional applications. And then test student 3 came along, and test student 3 had a question for test student 2. How long can your PowerPoint lectures be? Test student 3 entered this post by clicking on the reply button for test student 2's post. So you can reply to posts. And then test student 2 came back and replied to test student 3's reply to his post and said, as long as you can keep people watching it, and so on. And these 3 posts are related to one another, obviously, and they're showing with white space around them as a group. That means this is a thread, a discussion thread. And we're able to follow this discussion, even though all of this activity took place over a month ago. So that's what we mean by saying this is an asynchronous discussion. You don't all even have to be online in the same month to participate. And then there are other similar threads here. So this is how a discussion can play out, and you can get really robust, lengthy discussions. Far more robust and meaningful than you could ever carry out face-to-face in class. And students who won't speak up in class, who are too shy or like to think a little bit more about what they say before they speak, and the motor mouths in class don't necessarily dominate discussions like this, like they will in class. People who are less articulate will participate here when they won't participate in class. So it's just a marvelous tool. Yes.
Dave, I have another question about that. I have fairly low level ESL students where I think if they're allowed to reply to the reply, they're going to get confused and not answer the questions. They're just going to reply to the reply. So is there a way I can not have them?
Not that I'm aware of. No, I don't think you can turn that off.
Okay. So there will be a thread if they choose.
There will be a reply button. They may not use it, but there will be a reply button at the bottom of each. I think. Wait a minute. Let me try something here. Let me go back to that one I just created. I may be telling you the wrong thing there. We go to that sample discussion and edit it. And let's uncheck allow threaded replies. And go back and look at that as the test student. This is how you can check out things like this. Because remember, sometimes you can do things that students can't. Well, most of the time, you can do things that students can't. So to be absolutely certain that students have the capability you desire, now the reply button's still there.
Okay.
So, nope, you can't stop that.
Okay. I have a
Because that
question.
wasn't the intent of the tool is to make it the communication experience as rich as possible and not limited. Yes.
In the certification program, when we're doing discussions, I wrote my answer to the discussion question, and then I responded to 2. I could find the 2. But I have gone back now 2 weeks later to see if anybody has responded to me. What I did was I put my name in the author name, and nobody has. Is that usual?
Yeah, it's not. Unfortunately, given the number of people in that course, the chances that someone would find your particular posts to reply to are kind of low.
Yeah,
for
I read
anybody.
this morning that there were 1,000 students in the course now.
Yeah, exactly.
Good to see. I'll try and
You
find
can, however, search, as you said. I'll just mention this for everybody else. You can always search for your own posts, because these discussion forums in the certification course are page after page after page of posts, hundreds of posts. So finding a particular post can be difficult.
How do you do that?
You have this search button here or search box that you can use. So you can search for the author of the post or for a keyword that might be associated with the post in the title or in the text. So that allows you. I will say that the Canvas courses were never intended to get that big. All of these tools are designed with the thought that you have somewhere between 20 and maybe 40 or 50 people in the shell at one time. And discussions, one of the reasons we don't like to see classes bigger than that or shells bigger than that is that the discussions get very unwieldy when the enrollment gets that high. It's very difficult. So it's undesirable to have that many people in an online course at one time. We just don't have any choice at this time. But that's not best practices. The ideal enrollment for an online course is usually posited to be around 25 to 30 people.
Dave, I have a question on,
yes.
Do we have to save these, or are they automatically saved? How long are they saved? You mentioned the possibility of being
the discussions. No, the posts.
Yeah.
When you at the bottom of the post, when you post reply, that saves the post to the discussion board.
Okay.
And it will stay there indefinitely,
Oh.
unless an administrator goes in to delete it, or an instructor. You can delete posts, like if somebody posts something inappropriate to one of your discussion forums, which has happened, you can go in and delete it. The students can't delete their posts, which, if you think about it, is a really good idea, because a student could go in and post something inappropriate and then take it down, and you wouldn't know it unless another student ratted them out or something. So students cannot delete or edit their posts, but you can do both.
Thank you.
So good question.
Dave, how do we quickly see how many times a student has posted on a particular?
How do we see how many times they've posted? The easiest way is to go to the speed grader. If you go to your gradebook, you will see who's posted to a forum and who hasn't. Let me see. Here's a that's a quiz. Sorry, let me find the discussion. Oh, I've told it. Let me go to. This is a wonderful tool in the gradebook. You can limit the gradebook to displaying only certain types of assessments in a view, so that you can find things more easily if you have a lot of assessments. And here's my discussion. This is the only discussion that's actually gradable in this course. And you can tell if somebody's posted. They'll either have a grade because you graded it before, or you'll see this little symbol that says there's been activity in there and you haven't graded it yet. If you click on that icon and click the right arrow, it will take you to a place where you can open your speed grader, which is your grading interface in Canvas. You'll spend a lot of time in there. Get very familiar with the speed grader. And what the speed grader does is list all of the posts by that student. And you can read them very quickly. If you need to see them in context, you can also go back to the full discussion and look at them there. But this is how you can find all the posts by a particular student in a particular discussion forum or topic.
So you can't annotate with these?
No, there are no annotation tools here.
But you can use the mic to make comments.
Yes. If you you can make general comments about their performance here, and if you are using Google Chrome, you can use this little tool right here, speech recognition tool, and you can hit record. Fairly good work, period. Better luck next time, period. Stop. I'm not going to submit that, but you get the idea. Yes, you can make general comments, and you can, of course, assign a grade. So that's how you grade discussions, which is another thing we had on the syllabus for today. And I'm not going to save that because I want to keep that as it is for a future demonstration. All right, now I can get back. And any other questions about discussions? Very important communication tool. All right, let's talk about the third major communication tool. And I'll answer questions you think of later. And that would be your inbox tool, your conversation tool, it's sometimes called in Canvas. This is always available to you in your Canvas global access menu or global navigation menu here, which is always visible at the left-hand edge of the screen in any Canvas page. And this is sort of like email, but it's an internal, it's basically an internal messaging system like email. the good thing about that is if you send a message to a student, you know it shows up in their Canvas inbox 100% of the time. You can't always be absolutely certain if you email a student that they're going to get the email, because it might be, you know, a firewall might block it, especially if you send it from your district account. Occasionally, various email providers get angry with the district because we've got all these students using our computers and so on. Sometimes they misbehave, and from time to time, mail from the district is not delivered to some domains in the internet email. That was happening a couple of months ago with Outlook, I know, with the Outlook.com, the Microsoft free email. So also it may go to the student's spam folder and they may not look for it there. A lot of things can happen to email going across the internet, but email or messaging using your inbox tool in Canvas is guaranteed to arrive. And the student can pull it up in their inbox. And they have an inbox just like yours. Their received messages appear here on the left. And they can read them by clicking on them. And it tells them who sent it, what course it was sent from. And there's an email, a message that they can view. They can reply to that message, and the reply will go back to the Canvas inbox of the sender. And they can also forward it. They can reply all, they can forward, and they can delete the message. All the usual things that you'd be able to do with with a messaging tool like email. And here they have graphical tools. They can also archive it, download it. They can delete it. They can mark it as unread so that it'll stay at the top. They can forward it. They can star it as important, usual stuff. And they can search for messages from particular people. So it's a pretty full-featured email or messaging tool. I keep just disciplining my lips on that. Oh, they can, yes, go ahead.
So, you know where it says all courses up there?
Yeah, that's where I was going.
It does not allow you to email all of your courses at the same time.
No, this refers to the received messages.
Oh.
You can see, by default, you'll see messages that come from all the courses that you're enrolled in.
All right.
But you can select specific courses that you want to see the messages from.
All right.
So that you don't have to sort through all of the messages that you receive in order to get them.
But Dave, is there a way they can message each other in this inbox?
Yes. They can send messages as well. This is one of the ways that we meet the requirement for student-to-student interaction.
Okay.
The discussion forums are another way, but we are required to engender student-to-student communication in an online course as well. And this is another way they can do it.
Dave,
and you can't turn that off. Yes.
Dave, is there a better way to, because like sometimes when I get a message, I don't always remember the course reference number for where it's coming from, which is why I sometimes get confused if I had two students, one first name Nicholas, the other one last name Nicholas. Yeah, and so I remember the name Nicholas because that's common enough. It's not like John or Juan or something. And it took me a while to realize that those are two different students, two different sections. And it's
right.
I think better like with Blackboard where I go into one section, I know the students from that section and what was going on in that class. Is there any way to do that in Canvas? Because that, to me, it gets confusing. I know maybe everyone else has their CRN numbers memorized, but I don't.
Well, first off, you can limit which messages you see at any given moment by selecting the course that you want to see messages from. So that will, if they're in different courses, that will help. And when you pull up a message, you do see the name of the course from which the message was sent, but I don't think that includes the CRN though. I can't remember.
Well, yeah, it has like their name, and then it'll have like 21355, and then I just remember.
Yeah,
okay,
right. That's not terribly helpful, right?
Right.
So no, there's unfortunately I don't know of any way to this is about where the rabbit hole ends up. You can't go any further with that. You'd have to look if you had two sections with essentially the same name with just different CRNs in the same course. You just have to go and find it the hard way.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
afraid.
you.
Does it automatically organize that for you, or do you have any choices at all? Yeah, you know, when you just went up to the that little box, the search box, the all
Right.
box, and you showed us a whole bunch. No, a little higher. Yeah, thank you. So, do you have any choice of how it gets titled?
No.
So, you know, how to organize.
Yeah, the course titles are set by what's in PeopleSoft.
Oh,
And you can't change it. So you don't have any control
thank
over
you.
that, unfortunately. Not for
Okay.
live courses.
Yes.
You can, we can change
Thank you.
things on your development shells and things like that, but we can't on the live courses. They have to stay at the same. In order for the integration process to work, they have to stay the same. Good question. Would be nice. I hear you.
Hey, Dave,
Okay. Yes. Uh-huh.
This is Marlene. How would a student send a message to another student? How do they know?
Well, let me show you the send process here in a second. Let me see if there's anything else here. This is fairly straightforward. This menu allows you to pick the folder, your mail folder. By default, it shows you your entire inbox, but you can see only unread messages, messages that you have starred as being particularly important. You have a sent box, just as you do with your district email or your Gmail. You can see archived messages, and you can see submission comments. That's not likely, but so you can change your view here. You can see the messages you have sent. So there's a record kept of all this. So you can prove if there's a dispute about whether you sent a message to a student or not, you can go back and pull up the sent box and say, yeah, I did. At this time, here's the message. So having a record of this kind of communication is good. Also, the same is true for the students. If a student sends a message to you or to another student, it will be in their sent box. And I don't believe they can delete it. Pretty sure we've taken that capability away from them. So if a student misbehaves, administrators can go in and access a student's inbox and their sent mail. So there is a control mechanism in case of misbehavior, but it is a marvelous communication tool. To send a message, you or a student would go to this little icon right here, which is your compose icon. Compose a new message. And you got a fairly standard email send screen, except that you have to select the course to which you wish to send this email. You can, unfortunately, all courses is not one of the options. It would be nice. I've selected this course because that's a course that actually has some test students in it I can send to. It makes it better to demonstrate this. To choose recipients for the message, you use this little icon here that has a little person and a notebook icon. And you get an option to send to teachers in this course, first off, you can send to everybody in the course. That will select all students and any other teachers who might be in the course, TAs, everybody will get this message. Or you can send just to teachers, just to students, or to particular student groups if you have those set up. If you select students, you get a list of the students in the course, and you can select the student or students you wish to send to. So I could send to both test student 2 and say test student 3, if I so desired. Then it's fairly standard. Subject. This send an individual message to each recipient is basically a blind carbon copy setting. If I send this message to these 2 students and check that, each one of them will appear to be the only one. To them, it will appear as they're the only recipient. They won't know that I also sent it to someone else. This is a good thing to check when you're sending to the entire course, for instance, the entire roster, because otherwise the message header gets kind of messy. So often you'll select that. Then you just type a message. You can attach a file, usual stuff. You can even make that little recording like we saw earlier. And then you can send the message. Fairly standard email-like process. But that goes to the students or the recipient's Canvas inbox, and they will find it over here waiting for them. Apparently I don't have my email address associated with any of those students, or it would have shown up here. All of that takes place inside of Canvas. But if the student's notifications allow it, that message will also be forwarded on to their personal email account by Canvas.
I have a couple questions regarding this.
Yes.
One, if you check the part, this is Kathy, Dave, if you check the part that says send individually, I mean, I always thought that we're not supposed to CC all of the students at once for their privacy.
Right. That maintains their privacy.
And so we always should really check that.
In most cases, if you're sending to multiple students, yes.
All right. And then the other question is, who administratively has access to our courses? I remember when online first started, and I chaired a department and I needed to do an evaluation. I had to get permission from the instructor in some way to go see the class. Is that still the case?
That is still very much the case.
Okay.
These are your courses, they're your intellectual property, and online learning, only a system administrator can look at everything.
Okay.
And those are fairly few. And we are all
sworn to secrecy,
reminded that we may not put someone into your course without your permission. And that includes your department head, your dean. Constance Carroll has never asked us, so I'm not going to swear that we wouldn't put Constance in if she told us to. Okay, we are living in the real world. Nominally, we're not supposed to. You control who has access to your course.
Right.
With the exception of system administrators, somebody has to run the thing.
Right.
But no, we will not give anybody else access to that course. We require an email from you allowing us to put your evaluator in, for instance.
Right.
They can't just go in and no. No, that's a very, as you might tell from the way I'm responding, that's a very sensitive issue.
No, it's very important. Yeah.
It's very important. People have actually threatened to sue over that. And we've had to prove that we did not give anyone else access to their materials, which we did not.
Hey, Dave,
So
I have a quick question. This is Leonard.
Yes.
I'm new to all of this. I never even knew we had anything like this, and I've been there for years. But anyway, when a new semester starts or a new year starts, does all of this get wiped out? It starts over? A clean slate?
Well, it does start over, but it doesn't get wiped out. The courses that you have taught remain on the system, and you will have access to them indefinitely.
So even after I set up discussions and all these links and videos and pictures, that stays on forever? Well, whatever forever is.
Well, yeah, exactly. At some point in the distant future, we may have to archive some of the oldest courses, but we'll back them up. And if you ever need anything that's in there, we can put it back on the system and you can get it back. You'll never lose access to your courses. Your students will lose access after a time. After the end of the term, but you will never lose access. And you'll always be able to copy, once you create a course and get it just the way you like it, you can then copy that into the next semester, so you don't have to do it all over again.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so otherwise no one would do this. If they had to redevelop that course every semester, no one would teach online. Okay, so yes, if notification settings are set to allow it, then the message to the student goes on to their personal email where they can see it. So you can reach students who are not logging into Canvas. It's an important thing. And if a student replies, it will, from their personal email inbox, the reply will come back to your, or to the sender's Canvas inbox, and if you allow it, it will go to your personal email, and you'll see it there. So if everything lines up, it's an end-to-end communication system. It can go from personal email to Canvas back to personal email, and it's a very robust, reliable, and powerful communication, personal communication system, as opposed to the discussion forum, which is public. Everybody sees the discussion posts. Only the people, only the senders and the recipients see the messages from the inbox tool. So this is what you'd use for confidential communication. And yet it keeps a record of it. So if there's ever any question about what was said when, then that is there, and it's very demonstrable what was going on.
So Dave, I have a question. You said if
yes.
It will get sent to personal email if
they allow it.
And where are those notifications? How would they allow it?
Your notification settings are under your account button in the global access menu here. You click on that and select notifications, the first link.
Okay.
And yours probably won't look like a mess like this. I've got every possible option here. Usually you'll just have one email address that will be the way that the notifications are delivered, though they can be delivered by push notification to the Canvas mobile apps and even to your cell phone by SMS, by text, if you set that up. But by default, it will be sent to your email address that is associated with your Canvas account. And the same for the students. And you can set under conversation, if a conversation message, which is an inbox message, is sent, if this is checked, it means that a notification will be sent, which includes the message itself, will be sent, or at least part of the message. It won't include things like video or file links or something like that, but it will include the message body, will be sent to your personal email.
Okay.
If you have this option selected. So, and that is, I think, the default. It's been so long since I was new in Canvas, I'm not certain, but I believe that's the default. So you can be, it's better than even chance that if you send a message to a student to through the inbox tool, that it will also end up in their personal email.
Okay.
But you can't be sure of that, because they can change this. Notification settings are personal to the user, and they can't be overridden by an instructor or even by a system administrator. Well, I could go in and change someone's notifications. I wouldn't do that, but I could, but they could always go in and change it back. So you can't control these. You can only control your own, not your students.
Okay.
So we should always tell students which notification to keep on if they're going to get messages from us?
You could tell them that, yes. And we do have a tutorial on how to set notification preferences. You could refer them to that. And there's a guide under help as well. We have a video tutorial for that, but there's a text and static graphics guide under the Canvas guides on how to set notifications preferences.
Dave, Pamela
Yes.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a student will change their email address, and
You got it.
yeah, I always get that. Ask them, please go onto their portal and change it there, because of course that's where I get their email address from. Now,
Right.
does that is that automatically happens if they change their email? It'll
Yeah.
automatically. Yeah.
With Canvas, unlike Blackboard, if the student changes their primary email on the portal, that information within about 4 hours will be transferred to Canvas, and their
Okay.
email address in Canvas will be changed.
Oh,
They
great.
can also set their Canvas email account anytime they want manually by going to their account settings. They have the same thing, and going to the settings menu.
Okay.
The email address or addresses that are associated with your Canvas account appear here in the upper right. You can have more than one if you like. The one is listed as primary.
Yeah.
You can change this at any time by adding, and so can the students, by adding new email addresses. So if the student changes their email address, they can go in here and add that email address to the list at any time. And usually, I don't know why it's not happening here. I should be able to delete this. You can delete email addresses that are not your primary one. Like if I set my district address here to primary, now I have the option to delete this email address. So I can change that way. I'm not quite sure why it's not letting me do that with if I make this my primary, why it's letting me not do that. I have to keep this one as my primary because of the Confer Zoom app. Okay. Well, that's great. Any other questions about the inbox tool? You really do have a great selection of communication tools within Canvas, and they're all asynchronous. That is, people don't have to be online at the same time to use them. Yes, Kathleen.
This is all wonderful, well and good, but having never done it before, I just think, how am I going to know if all this email is correct? And you know, until I get in a classroom and start emailing me and
start using it, yeah, you'll be a lot more comfortable with it once you see it work. But basically, if you want to communicate personally, you use the inbox tool. If you want to communicate with everybody publicly, you use the announcements tool.
Okay.
And let me get back into a course here where you can see that.
I mean, so if we're going for our certification, are we going to have to know how to do this without ever having done it? Does that make sense? I mean,
in the certification course, if they ask you to do something, they're going to give you a lot of explanatory and instructional material to look at first. So you won't be expected to just know how to do it.
Okay.
Without instruction. You'll have instruction. You can, if the instructions for whatever reason are not clear, you can always ask questions. But generally, they've gone to a lot of trouble to make the instructions as clear as possible. I don't remember if they actually use the inbox tool in the training course or not, but I know they do use discussions. You'll be participating in discussions constantly. And you'll be asked to create one at one point, and so on. So it's, but you'll be given instruction on how to do that each step of the way. It's not just a bunch of assignments that you're expected to go out and figure out how to fulfill on your own.
Thank you.
I have a question, Dave.
Yes.
And I guess I'm perhaps overly concerned about privacy. But when you have student-to-student communication through email, they obviously have to have each other's email addresses.
No, they don't. All they see is each other's names.
Oh, okay. That explains that. Same thing if you have small group work. They see each other's names, but not their email address.
Right. They can communicate with one another without knowing each other's personal email address.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a big concern. That is not being overly concerned. That is a big concern.
Dave, I have
yes.
a question when you're finished.
Absolutely, yeah.
I just because our time is almost up, and my communication with my students will be primarily through video. I'm a dance teacher, so every day I will be posting, video, and so I just wanted your opinion. Which is the best under the nav bar? Would you post video like from my iPhone under assignments, under discussions? Where's the best place to post a bunch of videos?
Oh, wow. Well, it kind of depends on the context. If you're posting videos that stand alone, that you just want to watch this, I would probably put them either in just as an external link in a module.
Okay, yeah.
Like I can add an external URL here. And I can go and find a video and go to YouTube.
Or I was thinking about my Google Drive. Okay.
Right. Or indeed, get the share link from Google Drive. That'll work.
My colleagues are all doing different things. So, this was just thrown at us. And so it's really hard to teach dance classes online. But
YouTube is a common choice. It's optimized for video, but you can use Google Drive as well. The drawback with Google Drive is that things are not captioned. But if you're doing, do your dance videos contain speech, dialogue?
Yes.
Okay, in that event, they have to be captioned. Even if you don't have any hearing impaired students, they have to be
interesting.
Captioned. And that's where YouTube comes in. YouTube will caption them automatically.
So we just start whatever we want on YouTube. They will caption it, they will whatever, because I'm teaching film. I mean, I'm not dancing in front of people anyway.
But you're going to be using a lot of video, yeah.
But I hadn't even thought about having to caption them all too. So YouTube is the best.
So they'll all go through YouTube. So I'll just upload everything on YouTube and send a link.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Perfect.
And there are lots of ways to make that available in Canvas. We have an entire 2-hour session on that, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Wait.
But just adding an external URL link to a module is probably the simplest. So
Okay.
Oh,
if you're putting a video link in, I recommend that you load that in a new tab. It works better.
Okay.
They get a full window that way. But yeah, that works like a shot.
That's what I'll do.
And
Sounds
it's
the
free.
easiest.
And if you have a Google Drive account, you already have a YouTube account. You may have to create a YouTube channel. Yeah, YouTube is just another Google service. It uses your Google account. So you already have a YouTube account. What you may have to do is create a YouTube channel in order to upload video. And I have just finished, I finally pulled all my YouTube tutorials together, and I just finished, let me see, I'm not even sure I have uploaded it yet to the to our on-demand site. Let me go look. I may, because I just finished it. I'm looking, just saying, I'm looking for that site so I can show it to you, because that's an important issue here. I have a bunch of windows open on my computer, and I'm not sure where I have that. There it is, maybe. Nope, that's not it. That's a fascinating video a faculty member made some years ago. You talk about only being limited by your imagination. Faculty member did pattern making. Talk about a visual need for instruction. She was in the fashion department, and she was teaching pattern making. And we videotaped her making patterns.
Interesting.
I'd love to see
So,
that.
you know what? We just used a document camera and recorded it and then put it online. But there's just so many things you can do with video. But let me find that. Where do I have that thing? All right, I'm just going to make another link to it here. The URL is sdccdolvid.org. And by the way, I will answer questions as long as you have them. Don't worry about the fact that we just hit 4 o'clock. If you're hanging in there, I will too. And obviously, we finished the presentation about Canvas communication. But if you have more questions about that, I'll certainly answer them as well. But sdccdolvid.org, and let me put that in the chat tool.
Okay.
So you have that. Now I'll look and see if I've actually added that yet. I have this feeling I might not have. This will find all the, well, this is a 2-hour session that contains everything you need to know about using YouTube.
Okay.
But I do have another video, which apparently I have not uploaded to that site yet. Darn it.
I'll keep looking.
I will have it there.
Yeah.
Not too far in the future. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I have it on YouTube, though. Yeah, getting started with YouTube. That will show up there very shortly. That takes it from, do I have a Google account, to uploading videos to YouTube and sharing them with your students.
Well, that's
Perfect.
great.
Thank you.
That's great, because
Right.
I've
So
already
that will be up there very shortly.
Perfect. That's going to
Okay.
help.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Dave, you showed us how to give audio feedback, for instance, in the discussion. And I remember seeing you do that with a video, but I don't know where I would do that. Is it in the same little icon that you gave audio feedback?
Yes. Well, like in a discussion, if you were replying to a student's discussion post.
Exactly, yeah.
I would go, let me just pick something. Okay, here's a post here. Let's say I wanted to reply to this student. I get the rich content editor.
Okay.
If I just want to do a little talking head video or audio, I use this icon right here, the record/upload media icon. It looks like a little screen with a play button, a right pointing caret in it. So I click on that, and if you have a webcam on your computer, you will see yourself here. I have a webcam. I have multiple webcams on this computer, but the one that it's trying to use is being tied up by Zoom right now. It's the one you're seeing me in on Zoom. So I have to select another one if I'm gonna. So now they can see me and hear me, and I can record it and embed that automatically into the discussion post.
Perfect.
If I don't want them, if I just want audio, I just select no video from the webcam. And now I can make a sound recording. And the process is exactly the same as I showed you earlier when we were putting that into an announcement, because it's the same rich content editor here that we had before. So you and your students can embed both audio and video into a discussion post, because you have access to this full rich content editor menu in the discussion.
And it gets captioned?
No. This does not get, well, there is a way that you can caption these little ad hoc videos that you create with this tool, but trust me, it's more trouble than it's worth. If I were going to, let's say I wanted to reply to a discussion post by a hearing impaired student,
Beautiful.
I would create the video outside of Canvas. I would create it using my smartphone, maybe, or using a tool like Screencast-O-Matic or Camtasia. And I would send it to YouTube, wait until YouTube captioned it automatically, and then I would either link it or embed it into the post so that when the hearing impaired student played it back, it would have captions. If you know for a fact that you do not have any hearing impaired students in your course, you can use this little ad hoc recording tool more freely. But you might consider, I know we've got some ESL folks on the call today, you might consider that captions are useful for more than just hearing impaired students. Students for whom English is not their native language really benefit from captions, because very often they read English long before they recognize spoken English, or their skill at reading may be much higher than their ability to distinguish spoken English. Am I correct? The experts are here.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the country, but typically.
Yes, that's true. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So captions are very valuable for students who are not native speakers of the language in which the captions are, in which the dialogue. Yes.
Hello, Dave.
Yes.
I have a question. I have certification from Blackboard before Canvas was used. Do I need to have certified Canvas again?
You are certified to teach online. I know in some case, and this is unfortunately this is not an easy question to answer as it might be. I know some schools required that anybody who had a certification in Blackboard did not have to go through the full certification course in Canvas, but they did have to go through a Canvas transition course that taught, the nuts and bolts of Canvas. But that course I know is no longer available. So at this point in time, I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, and probably only your dean or your department head could answer that. That's early on, there was a much abbreviated transition course that people could take, who were certified in Blackboard. They didn't have to go through the certification again, and not all of the schools required it. So it's kind of so you're going to have to ask your dean that one, unfortunately. I can't tell you.
Thank you.
Before you leave captioning, Dave.
I'm sorry?
Before you leave captioning, you said if you know that the student is hearing impaired. Now, if you're teaching a line that's totally, a course totally online, and you're not allowed to ask,
but a student who has a certified hearing disability will be going through DSPS, and DSPS will notify you of that.
Some students
If you do not have a notification from DSPS that a student is hearing impaired, you can reasonably assume that they're not.
Okay, that's the rule. Okay.
Yeah, that's the rule. It's not a guarantee, obviously, but
Yeah.
you're not legally liable if you haven't been told. But the safe bet, of course, is always have something captioned if you can, unless it's meant for a single student and you know for a fact that that student is not hearing impaired, that you haven't gotten a DSPS notification from.
Okay, thanks.
If they come back and tell you, well, I have a hearing problem, I can't hear what you're saying, then you're going to make an accommodation. You're not going to, you're not going to say, well, you've got to go to DSPS or whatever. But that initial instance, they're not going to be able to come back at you and say, well, I deserve an accommodation. Well, I'm sorry, but I didn't know that because you didn't go through DSPS. So I will take care of you, but I can't, I'm not a mind reader. So that's kind of the situation you're in.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Dave, this is Pamela.
Hi.
Hi. Hey, what I wanted to ask about was I've done a couple of Zoom demonstrations, and the captioning is all wrong. And what I've been told I have to do, and I'm so anxious to see how to do the YouTube account, is that I have to establish my account, upload it to that. Now, it already has captions, but I can't fix them on Zoom. And then I have to wait till it goes through the YouTube, and then I get to fix them, and then I can take that link and give it to my students. Does that sound right?
Well, let's say if you record a Zoom
Not
session.
complaining, I'm just
Well, no. I'm just trying to
it's no student.
take it from the beginning here. If you record a Zoom session,
okay,
you have the option to either send the recording to the Zoom cloud or to your local computer from which you can upload it to YouTube.
So funny, just come right into my Outlook. And I have 3 of them. I have a video one, and it captions it.
Okay,
I have
that's
audio
going to the Zoom cloud.
Oh, okay.
By default, your Confer Zoom apps will record to the Zoom cloud.
Okay.
And when it's in the Zoom cloud, it will be automatically captioned, just as it would on YouTube.
Right.
And you can go into your Zoom recordings in your Zoom account and edit those captions.
That's what I need to know how to do.
Okay. You can access those by going to just bringing up a web browser.
Yeah.
And going to webbing to zoom.us.
Okay.
You'll have to log in. Let me log
yeah.
out to show you how that works. You'll see a little sign in button here when you first go to Zoom. Okay.
Yep.
And then you enter the credentials for your Confer Zoom account, probably your district email address and your password, whatever password you use, and sign in. That takes you to your account management screens at Zoom.
Right.
And these Confer Zoom accounts are just regular Zoom accounts that are paid for by the State Chancellor's Office, and they're managed by the State Chancellor's Office, but you can access them from the main Zoom website. They're all Zoom, standard Zoom accounts.
Good.
Now you would go to the recordings link in the menu on the left here, and you'll see all of those recordings listed.
Right.
Let me just pick one of these at random.
Yeah.
I can go to the recording page.
Okay.
And I can go to, probably the easiest thing to do, you can download these files, but that you don't have to do that to edit the captions. You can just click on this little icon here to get to the actual playback page for your
We'll
Zoom.
have it. Okay, from here on.
Sorry, I missed
missed it.
And
Okay.
your captions will appear over on the right here.
Right. Yeah. Boy, and there's so many mistakes. It's not even funny. Well, actually, a lot of them are real funny, but I need to fix it.
And it's tedious to do, but
Oh, I don't care. That's
you can
fine.
edit each caption in turn by
Okay.
just mousing over it, and you'll get a
Yeah.
little edit button.
Oh.
Now I can go in and I can edit that.
Oh. Oh, wow. Okay, good.
And then save the edits.
Of course.
I will say that unless that's really bad, I
No,
mean,
it is. Yes.
this was a 2-hour and 38-minute session. To edit all of these captions would take about 5 or 6 hours.
No, it will, because each one I did was about an hour long, and there's probably 200 mistakes in each one. And but
Okay,
it's really
well, in that
good.
event, that's
Yeah.
how you can do that.
Okay, and I'm sorry. Can you just go back one step? I was writing down. You go to recordings, you choose.
You
click
bet.
on, and then I didn't see where you went with your mouse. Yeah.
Here's your
Yes.
list of recordings by
Right.
date.
Right.
So they'll be identified.
Right.
Just pick
That's
one of
okay.
them, and then
Pick
click
one,
on
right.
this little playback icon here.
I'm sorry. Where? Playback.
Right,
I don't.
right here.
Oh, that. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Oh.
And that will take you to the
Okay.
page where you can actually view
We'll have it.
both the recording
Okay, from
and your transcript. And these are your captions.
Yeah.
So you can edit
Good.
each one in turn.
Good. So I don't have to go all the way to YouTube and all that jazz. And
No,
then I
no,
can
no,
just
no.
share with my
You can
students.
do it right on right on.
Excellent.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're happy about that.
Yeah. I've been wanting to do this for over a month, and I just haven't had time.
Well,
So-
yeah,
but now I know I can be good.
Yeah,
Because,
it's going to take a while, but you can do that.
I tried doing it from my district, whatever that's called, the Outlook, right? And then I tried to send it to my students, and it was asking them for a password and a username and all
Right.
that stuff. So luckily they weren't
Right.
able to open it. Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you so much.
You are certainly welcome. That's exactly why we're here.
Well,
So how do you save
Yes.
your recordings to Zoom?
When you by default with your Confer Zoom account, if you hit the record button and it doesn't give you any options about where to record, it's sending it to the cloud. It's sending it to the Zoom cloud, which is what I just showed you. You can set your Zoom account up so that you have the option to record either to the Zoom cloud or to your local computer. You do that. I just minimized the screen I needed, didn't I? You do that by going to zoom.us or cccconfer.zoom.us. Same thing for you, either way. Works the same. You go to your Zoom account settings, and you go to settings. And there are meeting settings and there are recording settings. You select the recording settings. And the very first option is to allow local recording. That is recording to your local computer instead of directly to the Zoom cloud. All you have to do is turn this on to have the option to record either to the Zoom cloud or your local computer. Once you turn this on, when you click the record button on in your Zoom meeting, you'll get a little menu. And one option will be record to local computer, and the other option will be record to cloud. And you can do either one. If you record to your local computer, you will have to then manually upload the recording to YouTube, which is pretty trivial. but you will have to do that. Also, the other well, there are a couple of benefits to recording to the local computer. One is that you retain control of your recordings. You only have to deal with YouTube and your own computer. It's not out there in the Zoom cloud over which you have very little control. A second issue with the Zoom cloud is that you have a limited amount of space in the Zoom cloud, a gigabyte of storage, which you can use up fairly quickly with long Zoom recordings. YouTube, you have an unlimited amount of, you can put an unlimited amount of video up. So that's another consideration. Also, YouTube is maintained by one of the largest companies in the world, Google. Zoom is a tiny little company up outside of LA, and they've grown tremendously since the pandemic started, but it's still a little bitty company. So YouTube is going to be there. The Zoom cloud so far has been doing fine, but their resources could get stretched. So I'm a little concerned about that. But maybe the thing I most like is that in a Zoom recording, if something happens that I really don't want to be sharing with the rest of the world, I can edit the recording. If I record to my local computer, I can edit the recording before I put it up on YouTube. I can't do that. If it goes to the Zoom cloud, it just goes up and there's no option to edit it. So it's using the Zoom cloud is simpler.
Hey, Dave, I have a question about how to, I've been working with Monica Cueva from the Continuing Ed, and anyways, I need to update my Zoom to the CCC Confer Pro account, because apparently I'm not. And so how do I do that?
Open up a web browser and go to conferzoom.org. Let me put that in the chat tool.
Okay.
Just type that in on the web browser, punch enter.
Okay.
Oh, and Zoom, of course, has 2 O's, not 3. Sorry.
Oh.
Whoops. Oh. There. That's more like it. Let me put that in the chat tool. Okay. Go to the sign up button.
Okay.
And there's a little form, like a 7-question form. Name, email address. Be sure to use your district email, your EDU email address. Your organization will be your school or continuing ed, SDCCD continuing ed. Your classification is administrator, staff, or faculty. Your title, I don't know, adjunct instructor or full professor or whatever. And a phone, preferably a cell phone where they can reach you. And then just click sign up.
Okay.
They will make you an account. They'll email you with the access information. And you will be able, then you will have a Zoom Pro account, which has no time limit on its meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And has other bells and whistles that you don't get with a free account, including the ability to record to the Zoom cloud. If you have a free Zoom account, by default, you record to the local computer. You can't record to the cloud with a free account.
So we just to faculty and staff. I've been paying for Zoom. I didn't know we got a free.
No.
I've been paying $15 a month ever since this started. So
bless your heart.
Well, I teach I teach film. I've got to, at any rate. So they said, no, you can get your own. But I didn't think we were talking about
right
Zoom.
here.
That's the question. Okay. So I go to Confer Zoom.
Conferzoom.org. It's in the chat tool.
Okay.
And
fill it out.
just sign up. Any faculty or staff member, full or part-time, at any California community college can get one of these accounts for free.
Okay.
I'm using one right now, even though I'm no longer, I was involved with these folks years, before I retired. So they gave me a Confer Zoom account when I retired. One of the best retirement gifts I got, as a matter of fact. So it saves me $15 every month.
Yes.
Which
yes.
I would gladly pay if I had to, but why do it if you don't have to?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
I am so sorry. Well,
That's
we
okay.
certainly accomplished something today. That's great.
A lot today, David. You accomplished a lot today. This has been so
Yeah.
helpful.
Thank you.
So helpful. I can't
Thank
even
you.
tell you. Okay, conferzoom.org. I'm going to do that as soon as we hang up.
Me
Yeah,
too.
be aware that there's been a lot of demand. I have heard from folks who have had to wait, a week or more
All right.
to get a reply from them, but they will get back to you.
Okay,
So Dave, I'm gonna set up a Zoom meeting for my class for
Excellent.
tomorrow, but I set it up today. So should I not do this until after classes, like next Wednesday? Maybe I should do it because I don't want to. I have 2 more Zoom meetings with my students, like tomorrow.
Well, this wouldn't affect an existing Zoom account, so
Oh, okay.
you can go ahead and make the request now and just continue to use the free account that you've been using.
Okay.
And you won't lose that. Just what email, let me ask this, what email did you use when you signed up for your free account?
The SDCCD.
Ugh.
Yeah.
No, you should still be fine. What's going to happen is that your existing account will just be upgraded to a pro account.
Okay. And then
So
the student.
you should be fine.
So the students have to upgrade their Zoom app or their Zoom.
The students, if the student is accessing your session on a computer, any needed upgrades to their Zoom clients will happen automatically when they connect.
Oh,
They don't have to do anything to make that happen. If they're using a portable device, a mobile device to attend your meetings, a smartphone or a tablet, an iPad, whatever, they will want to update their Zoom mobile app pretty quickly, because on the 30th, Zoom is forcing an upgrade to the latest version of their client for everyone. And I think the students have to manually upgrade their smartphone and their tablet clients. Those have to be installed before the student tries to access your meeting, unlike a computer where Zoom will automatically load the client for them. It's just slightly more complicated to access Zoom on a mobile device, though it works beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
They do have to have an up-to-date Zoom app on their mobile device. So I would recommend that before the 30th, they upgrade. Usually people will update their apps on a regular basis on their phones and their smart. If worst that will happen is they'll try to use the old app and they'll get a prompt to update it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So they'll be able to get in after a delay in that event.
Okay.
Let me see. I'm checking the chat tool here to see if there's anything in there we haven't covered. Does anyone have a phone number for support on Canvas? Oh boy, yeah, do we? If you go to the help button, you'll see a Canvas faculty support hotline number at the top of the help menu. 24/7, 365. Our average wait time is down to about 7 minutes on that. So you probably won't get connected instantly unless it's at an off-peak time. And remember, off-peak means like off-peak on the East Coast. That's where most of their users still are. But you may have to wait a little while, but you'll get through. And you can get to them. You can call at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning. You probably get right in. You probably also get the guy who got caught in the casita with the boss's daughter or something like that online. He may or may not be the best source, but you can get somebody at 2 a.m. on Christmas morning.
Well,
Okay, that was a good question. I am trying to input questions for my final exam and I'm running into technical problems. Neil, are you still here by any chance? I will, if Neil put his email address in there, I'll get back to him on that. Where can we find the recording to this? That is on that on-demand site that I gave you the link to earlier in the chat tool, sdccdolvid.org. And we have a button in the menu, access menu at the top of the page labeled Workshop Archives. And that's where this one will be. Last one is the grading was the last one I did. But this one will be up there hopefully by tomorrow morning.
Oh, cool. So that's a lot of them. Okay.
So you can always go back through this if you have the patience and a good, comfortable chair. We put these up here thinking, well, just in case, you know, we're making the recordings anyway. We need to make them available, but geez, going for 2 hours through one of these or more. But remember that you can fast forward through them. So until you get to where you want to look or assess, and you can full screen it. So that also gives you the option. So you can scrub through
make it red or
scrubber tool here until you see what you're like. If you were interested in discussion forum grading, there you'll actually meet with your students face to face, and so you can, or a discussion forum post. You can hunt around and find what you're looking for without having to watch the whole thing. And the recordings are quite good quality, as you can tell. They're just about as good as what you saw initially. So Zoom is, if I had to pick a single favorite instructional technology tool of all time, Zoom would be it. And the students can use it. I got to tell you, it's amazing. Okay. That was a good question. Please ask, if you got questions, ask them.
I have one.
Yes.
So I'm doing the certification course, and I went in today to look at my grades, and there are symbols I do not understand.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you could, on the grade part of the confer, if you could tell us what those symbols mean. Because some of them say things. When I click on it to figure out what it means, they say things. If I click, it goes to 0. I mean, I just have no idea what's going on.
oh my God.
I'd probably have to see the symbols in question, but let me show you and I don't want to pull up the actual gradebook in the training course because that would not be confidential.
If you can bring mine up, you're welcome to.
Okay, I can do that. Let me do that on.
Problem with that.
I'll do that on since you okayed that. I'll do that on. Let me do that on another screen so I don't expose anybody else's information. I got to go into that course.
You know, I have a similar problem, Kathy. It's like, where are my grades? They're there, but I don't really, so it's
you go under grades, but the symbols, I just get it.
Yeah.
So probably the best thing for me to do, if you don't mind, is to log in as you. I have a tool that allows me to do that, but
it will be Mary Carlo.
Permission. Okay. Let me do that. I'm oops, that's not it. Sorry, I went into last year's course. Didn't mean to. There's this year's course. That's more like it. And let me find you in there.
In the 1,000.
Among the 1,000. Fortunately, there's a search tool. There you are. And I can act as you. Now, I can see your grades.
Ooh.
Okie dokie. Here we go. All right, this is the student grade display in Canvas.
Okay, so let's start at the top. What does that mean?
This allows you to play what-if games.
And what is a what-if game?
What if I got an 8 on that? What would that do to my overall grade?
Oh.
I kid you not. I don't know why they put that in there, but that's, and that did not make you, that did not give you a 0.
What score did I get on it? That's what I want to know.
You got a 10.
How do I know that? It says score 0.
Let me refresh that.
And then,
oh, here's your, oh, that's right. There was no
there's
score
no
there.
score, and I did all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they told me my score.
Let's click here. You did it, but it hasn't been graded yet from the look of it.
That means it's not graded? Is that what that means?
It's not graded yet, yeah.
So that little thing means, what if I get it?
What if I got a 10?
What if I got a 10? Okay, so,
yeah.
So that means, what if means it hasn't been graded?
Right.
And what
that
if
means, or the dash means it probably means it hasn't even been submitted.
Okay, let's go back. What does the T mean?
T means that's a that is a text entry submission.
Right. And how many points did I
And that one hasn't been graded either.
Oh, okay. So that's not graded. Okay. It's looking good here. 4 point. I understood that one. 4.5 out of 5. And this is another one. 2.7 hasn't been graded, I take it.
Correct.
Okay. Then there is another non-graded, and then 15 out of 50. And then
these apparently have not been submitted.
Well, I'm only in. I think I got through 3. Yeah, I got
that's
through
what it
3.
looked like. Yes, you got through 3.
Okay, so basically what you're telling me is all those different things mean it hasn't been graded.
Correct. Unless there's a number
have,
there, it hasn't been graded.
Why don't they have
even if
G?
Even if it has been graded, you can try a different score and say, well, you know, because you're required to get a certain minimum number of points down here,
right.
You could test this and see, you know, if I got a perfect score on that one, would that do it? That's the reason you're given that capability. To tell you the truth, it causes more confusion than it's worth.
You can say that again.
But it's there. There's not much we can do about it. So.
Okay, good. Now I understand it. Thank you.
All right, I answered your question. That's the main thing.
Oh, but one more thing. What's that little symbol on the right next to?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. If you lost it, you lost it. It doesn't matter.
No, what? Describe it to me. Perhaps I can figure it out.
There's a little symbol at the far right, and it looked like it was an eensy-weensy square with a line going up, but I couldn't swear to that, even with my
That's
glasses.
a check mark.
It was
It means it's graded.
Probably.
Check mark, it's graded.
Okay, check mark is graded. Thank you, Kenna.
Very good.
Because some of them were automatically graded. The Canvas grades certain things automatically.
Right. Okay.
It grades objective tests automatically.
Yeah.
If the test contains only objective questions, it'll grade them all, and the total grade for the test will appear automatically.
So tell me this, Dave. If there are 1,000 students and this has to be finished by the beginning of the fall semester, is it going to be possible?
We're doing everything we can to ensure that it is. As I said earlier, we have a bunch of part-time graders coming in to help out.
I saw that. They announced that on the announcements.
Yeah, but isn't this supposed to be graded before June 18th? I mean, we have to get all this done before June 18th. But we have to start again and start all over again, right?
No, June 30. Has to be done by June 30.
Okay, June 30.
Yeah, June 30th.
Last
If
time
you
we-
have submitted everything, if you've submitted everything by June 30th, you will not have to start again. You may have to go back and resubmit some things to get a higher grade,
Okay. Well,
but you will be able to do that without having to start all over again. They're not going to make you start all over again because of a grading backlog. I would swear to that. No way.
right.
Dave,
Because
I had a question about
otherwise, this long chain line of faculty would be walking up to Brian Weston's house with torches and pitchforks. That's not going to happen.
I think also
He's
if
not.
you submit,
He's a nice guy. He's not going to let that happen.
I think also if you submit by June 30, they put you at the top of the line. They put
Yes,
all those that
you'll-
finish at the top.
You got it. You will be at
Dave?
the top of the line for getting graded. You bet.
Dave? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm at 2 different Zoom meetings, so.
Oh, bless
They're
your
on mute
heart.
now.
Oh,
I
no.
know. I couldn't get out of it. Anyway, but I have one of these in for you guys, so they can't hear you. But anyway, my question was, when you're back in the grade book and someone was asking about the different codes and everything, and sometimes I write very detailed messages to students, especially when,
Right.
like for instance, I'll ask them to give their topic, and they haven't even seen it. And I thought because I saw one of the icons, it looks like the balloons from a cartoon. You know, like in a comic book, you have the little balloon-shaped things.
Right.
I thought that meant in the grade book.
Right. So
Yeah,
how
it
do
looks
the
like a balloon
students see? How can the students
Yes,
see
look-
your detailed comments?
I know, but it's like, don't they know it automatically? Some of them said they didn't even see it. So, I mean, you were talking about how some things will show up in their message. Is there some way to put it in the formatting that it will give them a message that I sent them a message? They only look at the grade. So, like, for instance, I request that they give me their topic so I can approve it, and they must give me 2 topics. And so let's say I give them a 5, which is the max that they can get, but that doesn't mean I approved the topic. I gave them 5 because they gave me the 2 topics. They gave me 3
Right.
sources for the 2 different topics. So they did the work, but I thought, no, this is not appropriate. And then I gave them
So
very
they need
detailed
to be able,
explanation.
yeah, they need to be able to see your comments.
Right.
And
And so I have to tell
unfortunately,
them to
that's
go in
not
and click it.
as automatic as it should be.
Oh.
Here I am in as a
Oh.
test student in this course. So let me show you what it looks like for the students. If I go to this student's grades, and I've got a particular assignment here that I want to show you as an example, he said. There it is. Okay, here the student, I'll just use this particular assessment as an example. The student has a grade, and they can try a different score. They have the total possible, but this tells them that there are comments.
What I call phase 2.
If they click on that, they'll see, in fact, in this case, not only is there a comment, but there's a rubric. And they can see that they got full credit for these 2 criteria and no credit for that one, for instance. And then they can close that. If they have actual comments, they'll see this little symbol, which indicates comments. They click on that and they see the comment. There I've put in a media comment. But if I'd typed something, they'd see that here too. And if you have done markup feedback, they have to click on the name of the assignment and click View Feedback.
Oh, geez, no wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I don't know, I must not have actually put any feedback in on that one, but that I started to anyway, so that's showing.
I have feedback
So
that
that's
looks
not
like that.
that is not as intuitive as it might be. So what can you do about that? Well,
My poor students. I said to them, aren't you reading the feedback? And they said nothing.
we've got to, I understand that. It's not, I had to click all over the place to find it myself, and I knew it was there. So I made a tutorial for students on how to check their grades.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
And it walks them through it by the hand.
Great.
It's, I forget how long it is. Not very long. A little under 4 minutes.
Checking your grades and grade feedback.
So it's not a huge task for them to watch it. And the link to that somewhere, where did I do in my chat window?
Just put it in the beginning module or something.
Yes, you could do that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm looking for my chat window. I've lost it here somewhere. I minimized it. Okay, I can get it back. There it is. I'm putting that link. This is a student grade tutorial, and it's in the link is in the chat tool for you. You might want to put that, you might want to share that with your students. I didn't find it, I just clicked on everything in sight and I eventually found it. And some students will be confident enough to do that, but others who are very uncertain with technology may be afraid to just click on things at random, being afraid they might break something.
Delete stuff.
Like me.
Yeah, so I would, I can empathize with that feeling. So this will help, hopefully, in that regard.
Yeah, because it's so frustrating. I had a student who I told him there's a difference between persuading people that zoos are not humane, versus persuading a classmate, don't go to the zoo. Right. And then here I'm listening to him and saying, like, did he even look at my comments at all? And no,
perhaps not.
Yeah.
Because it's just not a sure thing that they're going to see it, because they have to know how to navigate that interface. And
so
this is one of the
least, like they with emails.
Yeah. And this is one of the least intuitive student things in Canvas. Mm-hmm. So that's why I felt like I had to make this tutorial.
All right, and we can use that in our classes then. Great.
Of course. That's what they're there for.
Copy and paste? No, the little video link thing, that's how we do it.
Yeah, that's there is a Canvas guide for that too.
Okay.
On grades. How do I view my grades in a current course? And that will have that information in it too.
Okay.
I think I'd rather hear yours.
Well, yeah. I like video tutorials.
Yeah.
Particularly for unsophisticated users, because they don't have to imagine anything. They actually see it.
Yeah.
they're a little less efficient in terms of time. I mean, I can read something faster than I can watch it. But, you know, they, on the other hand, they see exactly what they're going to see.
Right.
And that, for people who are having problems, the video tutorials are likely to be more effective. So that's why I made that one.
And the videos are like 3 or 4 minutes. So
yeah, I try to keep them under 7 minutes, because research shows that in most cases, by the time you get to 7 minutes, most of your viewers have left. So ideally you wanted 5 minutes or less, but sometimes that's just not possible. But this is a fairly limited tutorial, so they should be, so it's less than 4 minutes. They should be able to invest that much time. And they, you know, if they look at things and click on things, they can figure it out. But some users are going to be more successful at that figuring than others. So anything we can do to make it easier is worthwhile. And if you do me a favor, if you don't mind, if you run across things in your courses where you notice your students having particular problems understanding how to do something, I would appreciate it if you let me know, and I'll make a tutorial for that and put it in our site so that they can view it at need. Okay, any other questions?
I do. I have another question.
Very good.
Questions. Well, I was doing the certification course, and they asked about OER, and I looked, and I was looking, because I think that is important, that students have access to free, like, grammar in my class, because our book happens to be expensive. But I couldn't find, it was just like a wild goose chase. I just couldn't find anything, and so I just had to move on.
So I'm guessing you don't have this icon on your desktop.
I did. I looked in that. I googled.
And
looked in that too.
And we've got open textbooks here, and they're not searchable, unfortunately, because Canvas, one of the major drawbacks to Canvas for something like this is that Canvas doesn't have a search tool. So they just have to go, but there are these massive online, like the open textbook library.
Okay.
Is huge, and let's see, college ESL writers, applied grammar.
No, just like it's a level 3 out of 7.
That's a level 3 there. Bray's grammar anatomy. This is obviously
it's a high level.
Various indigenous languages, yeah, but there are a few here. But let's just try Google. Let's try textbook grammar. There's Bray's grammar.
So Marlene, this is Kenna. What exactly are you looking for?
I'm looking for, I use this Betty Azar's Basic English Grammar, and it's like a $60 book, and some students can't get it. And
so well, I'm using English in Action. English in Action 1 for my level 2 students. And what I'm doing is that I type up a verb chart and a grammar chart for that unit, so they have that page as a resource reference. Because at the end, at the end of our Ventures books and the English in Action books, they have all those little grammar charts in the back.
Right.
But I make one up for each of my units, so they have that page.
Right, but you're requiring them to get the book, correct? To buy
the
book.
English in Action is like $35.
Yeah, but some students, I still had students who could not get the book. So
Well,
I'm just,
$65 is a lot.
Okay.
well, it's 55 plus tax.
That's
Yeah,
a lot.
Well, one of our links on that site is to the OER Commons, which is another a huge OER repository online, everything free. And I went in and I searched for English grammar, and I got 745 results.
Okay.
There's the big grammar book, grammar slides for English learners, grammar essentials, English grammar. But it looks like there's an embarrassment of possibility. Basic English grammar concepts. Let me send you that link.
Okay, great. Thank you
I'm
so
gonna
much.
put that in the chat tool.
And also you can check with instructional assistant also what they recommend. They have textbook recommendations.
Indeed, indeed.
You mean the one in the
Make sure
navigation?
that's in there.
Yeah, they have textbook recommendations.
And I get there by the help in the navigation, the global navigation?
Commons. You go by the commons. Look at the commons.
Okay.
And it's commons,
Yeah,
and then you see that.
Okay.
And
If you're looking
the
for a
OER
good book,
Commons.
I'd go to the ESL department for it.
But the under OER repositories here on our Open Educational Resources site, the OER Commons is one of the ones listed. And you might find other, any of these might have quite a bit of that. But the OER Commons is a very extensive site. So any of these places might be a good place to look. For things
I did
like
look
that.
at the Merlot, but yeah, I'll go to Commons. Thank you so
Merlot,
much.
yeah, it's more lesson plans and things like that. But search any of them. You might, and the hippocampus is another good one. You just never know what you're going to find here, and there's an amazing amount of stuff out there for free, encompassing every subject you can imagine and a few you can't, like those indigenous grammars that were popping up. It can be a little bit of a treasure hunt. We've tried to specifically pull up as many open textbooks as we could. But we found maybe 100, 120, something like that before we had to move on to another project, and there are hundreds more out there. So it's worth looking around. There's just an incredible variety of OER out there. Okay, that helped. Perhaps there's something there that will work.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm going to run.
Okay, I hear you. Anybody else have anything? Any questions?
I do.
Good.
All right, so I give my.
That's what I'm here for.
I get my final on Monday, and I have been over it 10 times. I think it's cleaned up, but I don't have the date. For some reason, the dates to open and the dates to close. It's just, I cannot find it. I've done it on all of the tests.
For which term?
For this term, yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy with you going in and looking at it and telling me.
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I can show you where you can find that, certainly.
Okay, so we need
do you have your CRN handy?
Yeah.
That'll make it easier.
Let's go to 24930. I keep them posted on my wall.
Good idea.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, here you are.
Everywhere I might be.
Here you are. Okay.
Okay, now final exam under quizzes.
Uh-huh.
It's okay there.
Yep.
Final exam.
is not yet published.
It's not published.
That's right.
Now, when it opens and when it closes, I can't get it on. You know where you put that on? I can't get it on there. There's no space for it.
Let's look.
Okay.
It hasn't been published yet, so we know students can't access it. Yes, that's your hard on-off switch.
Right.
If it's not published, you can be absolutely certain they can't see it.
Okay. Now, while you're right there, see where it says view responses, and there's a place that says when can students see the answers? But is that the same place where they can, the correct answers? Is that the same time they can see the incorrect answers?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, I need that to be the same time because I have two classes, one on top of the other.
Right.
And I have it opened until after the second class.
Gotcha.
And
well, we can see when this is going to be available to students by editing it.
Yeah.
We have to edit it to see the settings. And
okay, so,
all right, your correct answers are going to be available from June the 1st at 3 p.m. to June the 2nd at 3 p.m. at 24 hours.
And that covers both my classes, but they won't see the incorrect ones before that, will they?
They will see the incorrect responses immediately upon submitting the exam.
So if you uncheck that.
If you uncheck that, they will not.
Then it all goes away.
It all goes away. They're not going to see anything until you come back in here and click this. Check that again. Then.
Oh, okay. All right. So I unclick that and I go back, let students see their quiz responses. Incorrect will be marked in the student feedback. And then can they see the correct ones later? Will that be an option?
If you check that as well and still have these dates set, yes. You can turn that on and off by checking it and unchecking it.
Okay, now where that's checked, when will they see that?
Immediately upon submission.
I don't want them to see it immediately upon submission.
Then you uncheck it.
That means they can't ever see it.
No, it means they can't see it until you come back in and check this and maybe check that as well.
Okay, so I need to do that at 3 p.m. the day both of them are. Okay, I understand. Okay, I understand that now. Now the other problem is down at the bottom.
Yeah, I've never seen a test without an ad block. You can add
I know,
one.
and that's driving me crazy because
So you can check it so they can't see the answers?
Correct. If you uncheck this, they can't see the answers until you come. They can't even see the incorrect answers, and they can't see the test paper, the quote unquote. They can't see the questions and the available answers until you come back and check this.
Okay.
And
so
you can do that after everybody's finished. But you have to come back and remember to come back and do it manually. You can't set that to happen at a certain time.
Okay, I never want them to see the answers. Otherwise, I have to keep redoing the tests all the time. So
In
I
that
want them to see
event,
the test.
leave this unchecked.
Unchecked.
They'll
Okay.
never see it. All they'll see is their.
Okay, and when they're taking the test, of course they can see it. But when afterwards, all right, I got it.
But Kathy,
afterwards, all they can see is their score.
But if they
that's all I want them to see, the score.
Dave, remember how you've told us if they take screenshots, it's out there.
Yes.
I know. But at least it's the smarter students, not every student. It's a little harder.
It's harder. It's like coronavirus. You can't totally eliminate the risk, but you can make it low risk. You can stay 12 feet away from one another. So.
Okay, now this is showing up right now, and it was not. Why was it not showing up?
That's because I hit the add button at the bottom of the screen. I don't know why that wasn't showing up. I've never
Oh
seen
my
that happen
gosh.
before.
Because I never.
But it's there now.
Okay, thank heavens. Thank you, Dave.
You bet. Do you want me to save that?
Yes, please.
The only change I made was to uncheck this.
And that's good. And I'll do it in the other course as well.
Oh, wait a minute. I do have to, oh, in my ad block, I have to put somebody in there.
Oh, right there?
Everyone.
Oh, yeah. So
there we go.
Yeah, okay. That's good.
Yeah. I have no idea why that wasn't showing up. I've never seen that happen. But it's the way, it's what it should look like now. It is looking as it should now.
It
so I'll
wasn't
save
on
that.
me, maybe.
And it's saved. So
thank you, Dave.
You should be good. Okay?
All right, I have a question. Yeah, I have a question about quizzes too, because well, first of all, I know Monday's the last day for my Monday and Wednesday class, but I'm giving my students a chance because I have a Tuesday, Thursday class. Technically, tomorrow's their last day, but I haven't even written the quiz. I've been so busy doing other things. But I'm going to give them I set the date so that they can go past that. But I guess I should have it if I start today, so that they'll have it tomorrow. But I have not video. I have pictures that they have to see. And I have it scrambled. So how do I do that? Can I share the screen to show you an example of what it looks like?
Yeah, let me kill my share here.
Okay.
Remember, we are recording this.
All right.
So if there's anything you don't want to be public, you don't want to bring it up on the screen.
Okay. Well, it will be other teachers that see it. It's not like other students, right?
Well, actually, anybody can watch these. So.
Okay,
Just
well, it'll only be
keep that in mind.
Okay, one page then. So I think I have it set up. All right, so where did I? Here it is. All right. Why isn't that? All right, this is my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here it is. All right, so I'll just show this one part of the quiz. All right, so this is about fallacies, and this is the way it's normally written. So like, here's an example, here's a picture, and it says, I can't support representative phrase. So, and then the answers are going to be within here. You know, like they look at the picture, and then these are the answers.
Right.
So I know how to do the multiple choice and the drop-down menu of that, but how do I get the picture in there? How do I construct it into the quiz?
Well, when you're adding your question text in a multiple choice question, you have the full rich content editor.
Oh, just like with the emails and the announcements?
And a Canvas page and so on, yes. So you can insert that picture just as you would into a Canvas page or a discussion post. It's the same editor. And you can put multiple pictures in there if you like.
Oh, okay. And then when it does the scrambling, it will, like, some students will get this picture and the choices, and some students will get another picture and choices then.
By scrambling, what do you mean? I'm not sure.
The exam is scrambled, so no two students get the exact same question.
Okay, so you have a question bank. You're selecting questions from
a question bank, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so,
okay,
right.
So different create the question just like
different questions with different images and different possible answers, right?
Okay, so I create just like a regular multiple choice or matching, and then just have the picture can be inserted just like with the announcements or the inbox email.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, I'll have to make sure I work on that.
If you run into a problem with it, email me and I'll help.
Okay, thanks. Love you, Dave.
This is Kathy. Hang on. So I'm doing informal fallacies. I'm in philosophy, and I went to the comments and I found nothing. So if you share, I'll share if you share, and we'll have informal fallacies in the comments so other people can be helped by them.
Well, they're kind of
in the Canvas Commons. That's a wonderful thing.
Canvas Commons, where faculty only have access. But I have a question about that, Dave. Some of the stuff that I used, I got out of a test bank from an author of the book that I use in the course, okay?
Right.
But now I'm taking some of that stuff and I'm putting it into the common. Boy, I'm really worried about security here. And
Well, yeah, that's
in the
if you're
commons.
using questions that came out of a publisher's or an author's
Right.
test bank,
then they shouldn't
that
go
it
in
would
there.
probably not appropriate to put those in the commons.
All right. So if you dig things out of the commons, you never know what you're doing. In terms of whether you're using, you know, someone
Well,
else.
that's not your problem. That's the concern of the person.
Well, it will be
posting.
mine if I put my test in the commons. So I guess I
Oh,
won't.
yeah. Yeah, I would be more comfortable only sharing stuff that I had created from scratch in the commons.
Like best practices.
Part of the test isn't.
That's a best practice, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And a due diligence.
Right. I take it back, Kathy.
Well, it's good to see you.
Oh,
Going
it's
to
wonderful
Leslie.
to talk to you all.
And I'm sorry that I was in and out, but I had another Zoom meeting going on.
I
So
get it. That's a statement about today's condition, isn't it? Multiple Zoom meetings at the same time.
it's like nothing. And yeah. And yesterday, in fact, I had 2 classes, one at 8, one at 11. Oh, that was me talking. I was like, where's that other voice coming from? That's me.
I can empathize. I had a Zoom meeting. I had one of these Zoom classes where I was the presenter, and we had a critical staff meeting at the same time. And I had to show a video in class. And while the video was playing, I ran to another computer, threw my 2 cents into the staff meeting, and then came back and got back just before the video finished. So I empathize. That's the way life is. The Zoom, everything's on Zoom.
And then I had a Zoom HOA meeting. So it's like 8 o'clock class, 11 o'clock class. And then there's a Zoom meeting at 2, the faculty meeting at 2, and then something I wanted to learn at 4. And then at 6 o'clock, I had HOA. So I was like, all right.
What would we be doing without Zoom?
I know, because at least I didn't have to drive to all these different places.
Right.
I want to know what we'd be
risk
doing.
risk your life. The only virus you can get from this is a computer virus. Worst case scenario, you can just take the computer out in the backyard and torch it. It'll get rid of that.
Or make sure I clean these very thoroughly.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll let the 2 of you continue talking, but it's amazing that the 2 people that kept you the longest are the Kathys with the C. The ones that kept living too.
And
I have to start doing the work. I think, Kathy, you said that no one had responded, but I'll make sure I email you then. So
you may not want
to respond.
Thank you. Okay, Dave, I have one more question.
All right, bye.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. And I'll definitely look for other Kathy with the C when I do because I am taking the classes too. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Take care,
Dave,
Kathy. Yes, ma'am.
You may not want to answer this question. It's kind of a fair question. I have a music teacher who wants to do Zoom classes. Now, I know there's a delay, so he can't play with his students, but he knows that too. But he needs help. And so I said, I'll help you. But then I got on and tried to do a Zoom account myself. Well, they say, you already have Zoom. You can't do it on your computer. So I need to know from you 2 things. One is, how long does a non-pro Zoom account last? You know, a regular Zoom account. 40 minutes, 50 minutes?
Your meetings can only, if you have more than 2 people in the meeting, it can only run for 40 minutes.
40 minutes. But if you have just 2 people,
there's no time limit if you just have 2 people.
Oh, then he doesn't have to have a pro account because he won't have more than 1 student at a time.
The main things you lose with a free account are the 40-minute. You can't have a group meeting of more than 40 minutes, and you can't record to the Zoom cloud. You have to record to your local computer. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference between the two.
Okay, well, given he's a musician, that'll be good to know.
Excellent.
And then the other thing was, is when you go on to look at Zoom US and you look for directions, there are a million things. Do you know the best URL for Zoom for someone like him who's not, he's worse than I am with computers, okay?
Probably the best place to go is the Zoom website, but they have a support website that you can get to from, let me find Zoom here.
Where they have that chat, huh?
There is a chat, you can ask for help, but they're as hammered as anybody because they've gone to huge, they've had a huge adoption. So if you go to the Zoom website, here we go. This is what I need. If you go to the Zoom website in a second, there is a support. And where is that? Meetings, chat. Where is, oh geez, they keep changing their website and they move stuff around.
Yeah.
Surely they have that here somewhere. Well, there it is, all the way down there.
Down at the bottom in the purple.
Tiny print.
And
what I would do is just go support.zoom.us. That's, I'd probably spell support right if I wanted to get there. Support.zoom.us. And that's the best place to go.
That's the best place. Great.
And there's all kind of support topics and so on, but why they make that so hard to find from their homepage all of a sudden, I have no idea. There used to be a link at the top of the page to it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure somebody thought that was a good idea, but it's there. It's still there. The Zoom Help Center.
And
another thing, and if he's looking to answer a specific question about Zoom, I would just go to Google and I would type the question in. How do I record to the Zoom cloud?
Right. If you put in, how do I get a Zoom ID? It's crazy. I mean, it is crazy. There are
lots of ways to, yeah.
It's like going, how am I going to help this guy? Okay, good. That's what I needed to know. That will be of great assistance to him, and he's a very special person. Thank you.
All right. I'm glad.
Right. And thank you so much, Dave. When I give this, today was my last Zoom class. If I get him through the final, you have made a major accomplishment. I mean, you have.
Oh, you have. I've just been trying to make sure you had the information you need.
Well, I really couldn't have done it unless I had a face-to-face instructor. I mean, it does make a massive, massive difference.
I think it does too. That's why I think Zoom is a critical part of any online instruction.
Right. So,
and I am happy to, if nothing else good comes out of this whole mess, that might be one thing good that does. Where the idea of synchronous interaction in fully online courses becomes more normalized. It was kind of an outlier before this.
Yeah.
And because people didn't have good tools to do it before Zoom, and they didn't want to learn them. Now everybody's had to.
Yeah.
So that's one good thing that may come out of this.
You would not have found me here. And look at me now. I mean, so, thank you so much, Dave.
My pleasure.
All right.
So good to talk to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.